Don't worry, guys. I got editing, so we can be a little choppy here in the first minute to get our grounding. We can start with the bottom of page 2. I'm not sure if that's where we left off. Bender reality. Or should we start off with calibrated questions?
Let's go for the bend the reality. I think it's a cool thing to bring to light. So what is known as accusation audit is extremely powerful tool. It's like as close to Jedi powers as you could possibly get to. So anchoring the emotions, right, to prepare them for the blow, or to disarm the dynamic, right, to putting it on the conscious level, and whatever we bring to light, it kind of dissipates, right? So it's important to bring emotional dynamic to the light. Or if we're talking about price, for example, right, you kind of preparing them for the shock, if the price could be shocking, by putting an accusation on it. And yeah, like Daniel, can you maybe share with us some of the accusation notice that you found to be useful in those scenarios?
Oh no, you're probably gonna think I enjoy hearing my voice. You probably think I'm just trying to hog up the mic here. Heck, you might even say, can this guy negotiate his way out of a wet paper bag? You probably feel a little bit of butterflies in your tummy right now. Yeah, there it is. Boom. The key to the accusation audit, it's that pause to let it sit with your counterpart. We notice in mocks, anybody that does a label accusation audit, it's almost instantaneously they talk over it, run over it, put a because, instead of just letting it sit there.
Yeah. And when it comes to like price, right, it's always a good idea to let the other party go first to get the price out, right? Especially if you're not sure like what would be the real value of the matter here. So it's good to hear the price first, because that gives you more ammunition to go off on. And you know, at that point you could do a few things. You could establish a range, right? So let's say if it's a salary, right, and someone said, well, you're going to get like 50K, this is the salary here, and you could do it with the range. Well, I heard that in similar, you know, in the similar jobs with your competitors, the salary range would be from 40 to 80K, right? So that will allow you that creates a range, creates a space for you to negotiate a better package, better price. And if the negotiation is stale, number 4, what you could do is pivot to non-monetary terms. So give things that are not important. If you're talking about negotiation, if you're not talking maybe about the salary per se, but negotiating a certain terms. Douglas, maybe you could chime in a little bit and tell us your perspective about the range and non-monetary terms. Like how do you approach this? How are you seeing it?
I actually could not agree more on non-monetary term type stuff. I mean, there might be something that they absolutely would just make them crazy happy, that like in terms of closing or a specific thing you're trying to accomplish in their close that might not have anything whatsoever to do with monetary terms. So, going back to the black swan type thing, that if you uncover something great like that, that's a great point in terms of something you can throw in. I mean, it means nothing to you, but if you discover something that really matters a lot to them, talk about an easy win.
I think the most famous one I've heard of is from Patrick Bet-David. You ever heard of Valuetainment on YouTube? Well, he's real big. And he had a cool story where a wealthy guy, nothing was working, and eventually asked him, "What do you need other than monetary?" Because the guy had a bunch of money. He goes, "I really need someone to visit my son in prison. No one visits him." And he did. He would go and see him like once every other week. And the guy said, "Here's my Rolodex. Feel free to call anybody of my friends. Tell them I sent you." And he just took off. And number 5, use odd numbers. Don't use round numbers. 199. 999. Number 6, surprise with a gift. Generate reciprocity by giving unrelated surprise gifts. There is one type of negotiator that does not like gifts, and that's the assertive. Landlord once gave my wife and I a gift. She got so excited. She's like, "Oh wow, such nice people." And I'm there going like, what do you mean? They're going to raise the rent. That's why buttering us up before they do that. And I'm going to go back to number 2. Let the other party suggest a price first. I think that one's the most important one. That's like hold off on your ask. Don't talk. Let them suggest. And it takes a lot of resilience. And they'll always try to get you to say the price first. And always deflect or put it back on their court. Yeah, but that's a crucial one, number 2. Freddie,
Yeah, and you can actually go ahead, Freddie.
Yes, with number 2, I found it difficult to deflect sometimes because it depends what you do. People want to have some idea what they're dealing with. That's the one that I have the most challenge, because usually I try to accommodate, try to deflect, but sometimes people, go to the point. So how much are we talking about, just to have an idea? What is the best way for you guys to answer without answering much?
Well, if you got to, eventually you have to, then you go to number 3. You give a range. Don't give them the exact number, give them a range. And they'll always select the top of the range for some reason. It's greed. Eugene, you got something to add?
Yeah, you could use a couple of labels. So you could say, it sounds like you have a price in mind.
Yeah.
Or you could say, I can see you have, you can give it good consideration and there is a price on top of your mind. So let them respond. You will see, like if there is the hesitation, maybe they're not ready to reveal the price, and then you can do the accusation audit, right? So the labels are very powerful. That's how you draw out the information.
Mislabels.
Yeah, or mislabels.
Vision
You could
labels.
say, I heard, from the competition, I might be completely off track here. In this situation, the price normally is yada, yada, yada. Oh no, that's outrageous. Okay, well, it sounds like you have a price in mind.
Yeah, remember when you're just
Then you draw it
talking,
out.
when you're just talking numbers, and that's when it's really key for number 4 to pivot to non-monetary value. That's way better than giving them, and if you're gonna have to give them a number, give them an odd number and maybe a little gift. Yeah, that's how you know you're dealing with a shark, is when they're trying to get that price out of you first. Now you got to be like, oh wait, I'm dealing with a shark here. Yeah, you better always be on your top game, especially what a shark will eat, like a piranha. They'll just eat you to the bone if you let them.
Yeah.
And let's go to ready for calibrated questions.
Would you be opposed to working on calibrated questions? That's
a no-oriented calibrated question, right? Yeah, so if you go point by point, the listener has control of the conversation. This is really, really hard to grasp, really hard, especially for the beginners. They think that I'm talking right now, so I have the conversation. But because I'm talking, I'm letting go of the control. Like, you guys are observing how I'm saying, what I'm saying, where is it all leading, so listener have the control. It's not the one who speaks.
You know what? When,
So, and it's,
so when Douglas asked that question, that calibrated question, did you guys hear how I responded? I didn't. Just stayed quiet, and then Eugene jumped on. Yeah,
Yeah.
dynamic silence. It's so underrated. It truly is the ultimate superpower, because if you're in dynamic silence, it means you're in listener mode. That means you're actually in control.
Beginning to know that. I've noticed that a lot when doing labeling lately. When you pair it with dynamic silence, it gives you a real opportunity to just, again, and it's not my nature. I love to, put my ideas out there, but boy, I tell you what, there's so much power in just shutting up and listening and using that silence. And that it's been kind of mind-boggling to see how different conversations go with that.
The way I look at it when I'm in dynamic silence, I picture my counterpart just burying their grave. I mean, digging their grave every time they talk. Yeah. And then lay them in there with that summary. May you rest in peace with the summary. It's
it became dark very quick.
That's how I like it. That's how I like it.
Darth Vader has entered the chat.
That's how I like it. Nice and dark in here. So, bullet point number 2, Freddie, can you read that to us?
Sure. Goal is to suspend unbelief, calibrate the questions to ask for help. So what I understand is, in some ways you have to let your counterpart to I'm sorry. Let me read again. I didn't think I get it.
Yeah.
I think in some ways you have to drop your assumptions and just ask the questions. That's what I understand.
Yeah, because some of these calibrated questions, they lead to the black swan if it's right. I mean, you got to suspend your unbelief that they're not going to tell you anything you haven't heard.
I think that the problems that I see sometimes is when people ask questions, they sort of ask in a way that they demanding for answers.
Yeah, or they ask you a leading question.
Mm-hmm. And I feel, in my case, I feel like when I ask questions, sounds like natural, or like sounds like I'm not as fishing for information. Try to make a natural conversation, but I notice with other people it could be very intense when someone asks you questions.
You got
This calibrated question, it's not the first thing you do. And I mean, you asking those heavy calibrated questions when you already have rapport.
Yep.
And you have to be careful, like if the questions are too far from each other in terms of like how you're asking it, it's going to create this gap, and it will create this weird sensation. Like, are you interrogating me? Like, what is it? What's the purpose of this? What's the intention of those questions?
I always catch myself saying, I'm just curious before. That's how you know the report's not really there. If you guys say, hey, I'm just curious. Yeah, but once you don't say that, you know you're in rapport.
Curious or help me understand. Like, I really want to understand some things you could use depending on rapport and situation. But a suspend unbelief, I mean, no-oriented questions are really powerful here. And it's shocking to what people say no to. You know, that's what Chris Voss preaches. And depending on the question or the situation, you know, this is how, I guess this is how I understand, goes to suspend unbelief. This is a little bit of a blur for me, but I guess like, if you're coming, would it be a ridiculous idea to do X, Y, Z? So that makes the cogwheels turn. I was like, good, that's not a ridiculous idea. And then once they say no, they start thinking about the what are you asking them? So you kill kind of two rabbits with one bullet. They say no, they feel safe, and then they suspend the unbelief and starting thinking about possibly solving this equation for you.
Yeah. And bullet point. I mean, that's like Jeremy Minor, NEPQ sales right there. It's the calibrated question for help. Help me figure out your pain. Bullet point number 3. All right. No, I love scissors. I like running with them. Don't use can, is, are, do, does. You gotta cut those out. So calibrated question, guess with an is, are you tired of failing? Probably hear that a lot. Are you tired of being fat and tired? It's like every weight loss commercial. But I like the ones that are like, what would your life be if you had 20 pounds less? No, hey, that'd be great. I can finally wear that shirt. Yeah, it's very odd. Like there's a lot like the word but. Really can't use that unless you want to erase something prior. What do you guys think about a calibrated question with can, is, are, do, and does?
I use in the past to confirm certain information that I have. I would say something like, if I feel like the person is not feeling with what we're gonna do you really want to do that? Just to confirm if the person wants to really do it or not. At least that's what I use in the past.
My impression of it is it's a much more it feels loosey goosey, not as confident is kind of how I'm taking those. Whereas how would you like to proceed is much more direct, and to me, you know, can we proceed is more, you know, kind of tentative. So that's kind of how I'm perceiving that. That's the first time I recall ever seeing those, but that's a great point.
I do know Jerry Minor uses them. I know he says, is that timeline something you're okay with? No, I mean, I'd rather make that money now than later. Okay, and what would that do for you? All right. I catch him saying it. The thing is, his tone is it just sounds so harmless. Right. So yeah, I think you can use those is, does, but man, your tone has to be in a special modality. Really has to be like an ultra curious, have no harm. I'm just literally curious. Let's go to.
It really depends on the context.
Yeah.
Like normally people are like, can you help me with this? And again, depending on your voice, you know, voice delivery is everything. But in this case, you could practice by replacing can with no-oriented question, rather than, you know, kind of wanting to hear yes, being addicted to hearing yes. Start getting addicted to hearing no, because no is really powerful, and people are afraid of hearing no. So hear it, right? So would it be a terrible idea to ask you to lend the help, like to lend a hand. No, that's not a bad idea. And now they start thinking whether that's something that they could help you with, right? So you make them think. But when you ask, like, can you help me with this? Nah, so many things going on.
Yeah, there was that tone.
Nah,
That said,
that's
can you help me with this? Do I
Yeah.
have to?
right. Do you wanna go to this party? No, I don't wanna go to this party. But if you ask, like, hey, is this a horrible idea to to join us at the party?
Here's the worst
No,
one.
I mean, it's not horrible.
Hey, are you off are you off work this Saturday? Yeah, man. Why? Hey, can you help me
Yeah.
move?
Oh,
Are you going up north tomorrow? Wow, you need a ride. Yeah, you know what? It's very hard to ask the no questions. I watched a guy on YouTube whose goal was to get 50 no's in one day, and it was so tough to watch. And I'm like, I can't do it. I can't hear no. That was the one that took me the longest to implement. No, and it was the most impactful one. Funny enough. So, Douglas, can you read point number 4? Avoid.
sure thing. Avoid questions that can be answered with yes or tiny pieces of information.
It's good to go deep and dark. It's really hard to answer that with yes.
Yeah, I mean, the yes-oriented question again, like, if you understand what no is, and no is a safety. It's you just said no to something, and this becomes very obvious when you start having kids. At a certain age, they starting saying no because it feels good. Like it's just no, I'm not gonna do this, Daddy. Like no, no, no. So like it's a part of the nature. It's autonomy. That's what they practice, autonomy. I don't want that. I don't want this. Refusal. So use it. It's ingrained in our systems to say no since very early childhood. That's why saying no is really powerful, because now that they say no, they already feel better about this, and now they can start thinking, what and how and why, which is the next point.
Yeah, next point. Start every question with what, how, and sometimes, but rarely, why. Only use why when defensiveness it creates. Only use why when defensiveness it creates is in my favor. Why would you ever change from the way you're always done things and try my approach? Can't leave. What do you hope to achieve by going? Avoid angry emotional reactions. Yeah, so I think those all point to, look, you're probably going to trigger your counterpart, and that's okay if you trigger them. Just make sure you don't get triggered. That's the big difference, and that's tough when you're emotionally involved.
Well, this what and how it's really great practice to start doing this, what and how, and avoid why. If you just start practicing negotiations, but why is tremendously powerful, and that's why Black Swan Group and other negotiators are asking you to avoid this. When there is any decision, like if you hear a decision, if you ask why, you're going to have a better perspective and understanding where they're coming from, because they're going to feel the need to defend their decision-making process. And if you're talking about conflict resolution, that's not going to be very useful sometimes. But if you're talking about the genuine conversation, like, you can ask why, and it's very powerful, because it is not only you asking the question, but it's the person actually justifying to themselves why they made this decision, and that helped them realize a lot of things that not at the conscious level when you're engaging in conversation.
Can you guys see the screen?
Yeah, looks good.
Oh, okay, much better. Be able to flow faster. That's what I meant to do on page 1 and 2. We might have to go redo those. No biggie. Where are we at?
Yeah, and another one that Dan and I were talking about when we were in the context of Socratic selling, we were watching a video on that you sent over, Eugene. Thank you for that, by the way. There's a fantastic combination between mirror. It's the stuff that behind mirroring. There's a kind of a combination mirror and calibrated question called criteria elicitation. So basically, and I can just show you real quick what it looks like. Dan, what's most important to you about your podcast here?
Spreading the joy of negotiations.
Spreading the joy of negotiations. And Dan, what's most important to you about spreading the joy of negotiations?
All right, I think there's too many people walking around with unnecessary stress, and eventually it might get to me. So if I can get others to control their stress, hey, they won't come on stressing me.
And Dan, if you don't mind me asking, what's most important to you about helping others control their stress?
I mean, I just said it, man. That way it won't come on over to me. You know, I'm not trying to deal with other stress. You know, teach a man to fish, they'll eat for a day. I'm sorry, give a man a fish, they'll eat for a day. Teach him a fish, to eat forever. Yeah, teach them negotiations, they'll be able to forever handle all their stress and not bug you.
Yeah, and if you notice the process there, what it does for you by using their own language in addition to the calibrated question, marrying the two together, we got pretty deep into, you know, what's really driving Dan and his negotiation practice and doing the podcast. You get a real strong sense of, you know, why is he doing this and what's important to him. And I think that's really useful stuff if you're trying to understand what's driving his outcomes.
And the other things you could do is why question, for example, just illustration. So then what made you start a podcast?
And I seen other dumb people do it. I'm like, if that dumbass can do it, sure I can do it.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Why is that important to you now, though?
You know, it's only a matter of time till the AI machine wakes up, and it needs to know that I'm here for goodness sake, spare me, machine.
So again, why is it really how you ask it? Like you could ask it.
Yeah, your tone was
your
tone was good.
Yeah.
Here, I'll try it. I'll try it. Hey, Eugene, why do you got that thing behind you? Bunch of small pictures.
It sounds like I'm being judged right now.
Yeah, you know what?
Sounds like you're throwing me under the bus, Dan.
That really man, I think the worst why I got, I was just talking to Jenny, was a boss pulled me into the office and he goes like, why are you making decisions on your own? Like, I'm an independent contractor, I'm independent. He's like, no, I'm the boss here. I make the rules. And I'm like, why did you even ask me that? Yeah, right. Why did you even ask me if you got an answer? A lot of times the whys, they already have like their answer. And so, yeah, like what Eugene did, he deflected back. He's like, well, why are you asking me that? Seems like you're judging, bro. Oh, dang, I didn't even notice I was judging. Yeah, my fault. I don't know what got into me.
Boy, and that's a great point of how you could use labeling defensively there to start de-escalating someone coming at you with the why question.
Yeah, the why produces reaction mostly. Like if someone is attacking you, why is the word, as attack word, is like a spear that they're throwing at you.
Mm-hmm.
And you gotta understand what's the intention behind it. Like, why are you asking me this? But you cannot say why are you asking me this. That becomes a combat, right? That's a conflict.
Well, yeah, I mean, I broke off a good friendship because of a why question not long ago. Hey, why do you got negotiator on your LinkedIn for? Why not? Do what I want. What's your deal with it? Yeah. No, it is. It's very doesn't connect, it disconnects for sure. Yeah, unless you ask it for it to favor you. What are we on? Phrases to use. What makes you ask? Yeah, we just talked about that. What makes you ask about my pictures? What about blank is important to you? How can I help this make better for us? How would you like me to proceed? What is it that brought us into this situation? That's how can we solve the problem? What's the objective? What are we trying to accomplish here? And how am I supposed to do that? You guys got any favorites from there? I know I do. The what is it that brought us into the situation? I like a variation of it. Like, how did we get to this situation? 60 seconds or she die.
Yeah.
How did you end up here today? You guys got any favorites? Eugene?
I like that. How would you like to proceed, or some variation thereof? I think that gives a lot of detail on what their implementation timeline looks like, and I really like that.
Yeah.
I mean, what about this is important to you? I mean, if you just did this with why, like why starting a podcast is important to you now, though, right? That's why you can, again, just kind of why you can dissolve the force of why by saying though. Why so important now, though? Right? And what about this that makes it important to you or for you? That is actually a really good question. What makes it important to ask? If we're coming back to scenario like, you just seems like you have some silly squares behind you, the square picture. You know, what's the importance of asking me that?
I like circle pictures.
Yeah. You just hate square pictures. That's absolutely fine. We still can be brothers.
Such a square.
Question. Oh, by the way, I like the one while we trying to. I usually ask what's the agenda for today? What's the objective? Especially when I talk to people a lot.
I should use that for every meeting. What's the purpose of me here? I've been doing that. What's needed from me in this meeting? Nothing, just to listen. Oh, well, just send me the notes.
Please.
I'm just gonna listen. Just send me the notes. I don't like attending meetings where I'm not a force of nature.
Can you guys provide me a example when you use why when defensiveness is creating in your favor?
Yeah, Freddie, why did you choose to jump on here tonight?
Okay, I see what you're trying to do there, but that's assuming that you sort of know that I'm already here. So
You just
what
answered
if
the
you?
question. I mean,
Oh.
What was I trying to do? Like, yeah, what was I trying to do?
So I'm already here, so of course there is an answer for that question. But if I wasn't, I just asking you, hey, what's going on tonight? How can you use the why for?
It's a very specific, it's a value proposition. And so like the way I'm asking it right now, like, yeah, just answer it. Like, well, where did you jump on this Zoom call tonight?
I feel like reviewing this this page. I feel like it would be very productive day if I review with you guys.
Right. And
Okay,
now
but
that
why though?
Yeah, but why?
Why not, Freddie?
Because I was planning to take time to review it. Actually, I was planning to read some chapters, but I didn't find time. So the email sort of like forced me to. Okay.
Do you feel defensive explaining the reasons?
No.
No, you feel good explaining it, right?
Yeah. If
I mean, like it really depends. If it's a decision and I'm curious about your decision, right? I'm just say, but why though? You can ask yourself, what makes you come here today? It really is about delivery. Like that's why you have to avoid why, because why is a loaded. It produces defensive response if you're not sure how to use it. But you can have very disarming voice, and if there's a decision you want to understand, not the question, but decision you want to understand, what's behind your desire to come to the to this podcast today or show. Why is that important to you?
I know what he wants to say.
Like it really is about the tone and delivery and the intent. That's what's the intent. Now you know that if you ask what and how questions, I think why is stronger, especially when it's a decision, when it's involved decision. What and how produces slightly different result. It's about kind of implementation, but why is getting the rationale behind the decision-making process.
I know why he's here. Because we're Jedi negotiation. And he wants to be a Jedi in negotiations.
Yes.
But why though?
I got a wife to
think
negotiate.
he said that's right. His face says that's right. Let's go on to the how. And this is I was just talking about this. About the Freddie, about the rule of three. I was just talking to him before you guys ruined the show. Is yes is nothing without how. Number two, calibrated how. Questions help guarantee execution. Look for that's right. Don't settle for I'll try. You're right. Those means I plan to fail. Phrases to use. How am I supposed to do that? How will we know we're on track? How would we address things if we find we're off track? Influence those behind the table. How does this affect the rest of your team? How on board are the people not on this call? What do your colleagues see as their main challenges in this area?
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about yes, it's nothing without how. This is really important, and people it's really hard to grasp. People like because most of the time people are addicted to yes. So when they hear yeah, I can do this. Yeah, you're right. I can do
I'll
this.
do it. Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah, sure. No problem. Yeah, I can do that. I mean, depending on the tone of voice, again, what you're hearing, yes, it's not exactly, obvious, but that's why it's important to ask those calibrated questions to understand the how. It was like, what's going to happen if we fail with this project? Where would that put us if we if we fail to implement the solution? How would that affect our relationship if we won't be able to solve this thing? Right. So you got to understand the how and what's going to happen if they're not going to implement this. So this is a very powerful questions to ask. And it's very easy because once you arm yourself with those kind of little questions, right? And you're able to probe and clarify whatever you're hearing, there's a lot of information. There's a lot of black swans coming.
And bad black swans too. There was one Chris Voss video I remember watching where one of the black swans was essentially that the board or whatnot did not really have a plan for her role, but they had a lot of expectations. And she asked calibrated questions, and it was not looking favorable for her. So she consulted Chris Voss, which I like this running military. He told her, go tell them, I get the sense you want me to fail. Or I get the sense you're setting me up for failure. And she went back in there and delivered that. And all of a sudden, she got more detail. She got budget. She got everything she needed to succeed. So yeah, the calibrated questions, the hows, it really can shine a light on the deficiencies. One big one I heard today is when you get a job, yeah, you should ask in a way, in a tactful way, what happened to the last person you're replacing. Why did they quit? They having issues, or were they promoted? And if they're promoted, that's probably a good company. If they were fired or they quit, yeah, you might want to ask some how questions. Well, how did that happen? How do they mess it up? Is there issues with my audio or is it me?
Yeah, it does sound like there's a hum in the background.
Oh, is it? There you go.
Yeah, you're good.
That was weird. Well, let's hit a rewind. No, let's continue. And any thoughts so far?
Yeah, for that's right. I mean, what are the some of the variation to that's right you're hearing like that? Exactly or precisely?
Oh, for sure. Oh, that's spot on. Oh,
Spot on.
that's perfect.
Mhm.
Exactly.
I would say that's right and exactly would be the most common one, especially exactly. For me, I tend to hear exactly rather than that's right. Maybe it has to do with the carrier of the language and how, who am I speaking with, but exactly is, it speaks to the same thing. That's right, exactly.
Right.
I'll try. When someone is, I'll try. When someone's saying, I'll try, you could play with this. Like, are you looking for a way in or a way out? So it's kind of depending on the situation. But yeah, I'll try to do this.
People like Douglas and me and Eugene, we're working on eliminating the word try. What's the Yoda? There is no try. There's do or don't.
Do or do not.
Do or do not. It's key. Just go. Let's see. Influence those behind the table. Man, this is something that I feel like it's buried, and I feel like a lot of us bury this part. It's like we want to believe the person in front of us is the decision maker, and in reality, they probably got multiple voices in their head and outside their head. And so you want to aggregate all those different voices, bring them all together, get them all lined up. I noticed that I think I once dropped a client because I'm like, even though your dad's not here with us, I know he's not gonna like this, he's not gonna like that, and you keep going after properties like that. Like, yeah, other decision makers are a big factor, and it's best to identify them quickly, seclude them, boss them, smother them with listening, empathy, report. What do you guys think?
I mean, you got to understand that if you're talking to a company, there are always, like you said, the voices behind and the voices in their head, and there's always going to be someone who might put the sticks in the wheels, right? So you gotta explore those things, and you're showing a couple of things by doing that you understand, that you are considering the implications, that you're considering other people who might be involved, and you're also guiding them through those decision-making processes. So asking, how does this affect the rest of your team? And what happens if if you can't make this decision? What happens if there's someone who's not going to be on board with this? You exploring the implementation thing, and that's important to do, tremendously important, and it shows a lot of things, especially that you are listening and you are concerned. So by doing that, you're establishing yourself as a trusted authority, someone that not only want things for themselves, but actually understanding that there is bigger implication that's going to happen, whether they're going to go with your solution or with any solution in this case.
I don't know, Eugene. I gotta talk to my wife first.
Okay. And is this how you normally make decisions?
No, not really. I typically just make it, and because it's easier to ask for forgiveness and permission.
Okay. And let's say your partner was here right now and she would be, hearing this and would be on board. Would that be still an answer for you?
Oh, I have to explain things to her. I'd rather just do it now. I don't want to explain things.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, a lot of times you find out that people are just putting others like as a obstacle. Like, haha, like, well, I gotta talk to these people first. And like, yeah, all right. And then they come back and they're like, oh, we're still talking, blah. That becomes a person that just frustrates me. I'm like, I would rather find someone else that's easier, fun, and lucrative instead of dealing with someone that's, that annoying and frustrating. Like, man, every time, even if I ask you if you want water or Sprite, oh, let me go talk to somebody first. Nugget. I can't. Like, it's just is a limit, right?
I'm also with you on that. I'm high velocity when it comes to most things like that. And if they give me a bunch of stuff like that, I just pawn them. It's it gets back to the abundance mentality. It's like there are so many opportunities on a given daily basis that I just can't see, battling it out every day with someone
Yeah,
like that.
turn your cheek a few times. All right. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Yeah, get back to me. Okay. Hey, that's enough. That's it. What do you think, Freddie? You've been kind of quiet.
Yes.
You got to talk to your wife first before you talk or something?
No, it came to my mind. I think Gene Camp, he says, do not assume your adversary decision process. Sometimes it's more difficult than you might think. And he mentioned to ask question who's the decision maker or how decision are made in a specific situation. Sometimes people don't know who exactly is the one who's gonna give the last approval. And that's true with my kids, because when someone wants something, the last one to decide is my kids, not my wife or me. I think it's me, but it's not me. Does it make sense?
Sure, it makes
When-
sense. I think Eugene made sense of it. Did it make sense, Eugene?
So, Freddie, when you're saying there is a decision to be made, you're the last one to make a decision, or you think that you're making decision, but in fact, it's not.
So
Yeah, I think
sometimes we think we know who makes the decision. Like, I should make the decision. I'm the father, right? But sometimes some decisions are more complicated than you might think. So people assume. So I was in the park with my daughters, and I didn't want to get something, but I knew that the decision was from my daughter, not from my wife or me. So the guy, he was smart and kind of asked the kids what they wanted. So he said something like, so who is the one who's gonna buy ice cream? So my daughter, they say me. So I was sold in that idea.
Yeah, I
Who's
mean,
the
in this
decision
case,
maker?
yeah, I'm not sure. It feels like you're being forced into making a decision, because now there is this pressure on you to whether you're gonna buy ice cream, and you know that you don't want to buy ice cream because whatever issues, health issues, or spoil it. You don't want to spoil them, and at the same time, you know that if you not buy ice cream, that might undermine your relationship or mood in the moment, and you're gonna have to fight this thing. So you're choosing between these two things. Is that
Sure. Yeah, what I
Yeah.
was trying to say, I'm sorry, I'm not for not being clear, but what I'm trying to say under these three questions, sometimes very important to ask who is the decision maker in some ways, or what's how the decisions are made. Um,
So you're saying that the ice cream
as a
man,
how question.
the ice cream man is really smart. He knows that the real decision maker is the kid. And same thing with cereal commercials. Why do you think they advertise to kids? Because they know when the adults at the cereal store, the kid's going to point to that one he saw in the commercial and say, "That's the one I want." Yeah, what are you going to debate with the kid? No. Yeah, you think you're in charge, but yeah, they might be in charge in that moment. Same thing with the ice cream. Yeah, the kid was the one in charge. Because if you say no, what are they going to do? They're going to start crying and throw a tantrum. And it doesn't sound like you can handle that, Freddie. Sounds like you'll be guilt tripped.
Yeah.
Oh man, I know I'm gonna find myself in a couple of years in that situation. But I think I'm right letting the kid cry. Because it's their way of connecting with God. When you cry, you have a direct bridge with God. That's why every time
Where's this coming from?
this is true. Every time I make anybody cry or I see them cry, I tell them, you know what? I am really jealous right now. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, because you're talking directly to God. You have a connection right now. Ask him some stuff for me, will you? And then they stop crying. And I'm like, what? You don't, why you stop crying for? It was enjoyable. Yeah, Freddie, let the kid cry. Let them talk with God, will you? So selfish, man.
You're talking to God right now. Pattern interrupt. That's fantastic.
Isn't it? But it's really true though. It really is. It helps me with not getting guilt tripped ever. I never get guilt tripped. I'm just no. Look at you cry. Lucky. So jealous.
Bloody savage.
Fills me with joy. Fills me with joy. Good job, ice cream truck driver. Hey, I bet you like making kids cry all day, right? What? No, man. Yeah, Freddie is what you need to do, man. You gotta lift up your skirt, grab your balls, and tell that ice cream man, stop making my kids cry. I wouldn't mind. Be like, hey, look, honey, ice cream truck's coming again. I don't want to. Okay. Let's go to this. Speaking of crying, 738:55. Man, body language is very influential. And face, tone of voice, 7% content. I used to mix these up right here, the voice and the body language. I swear to you, I thought voice was higher than body language because, these FBI guys, they do all the work with their voice over the phone. And so I like what they say, like, man, learn some body language skills. Like, if you can destroy just with tone of voice, imagine what you can do with the body language. One thing I've worked on, I video myself randomly. I'll put the camera there. I'll hit record and I'll watch it later. And I notice I used to do this a lot. Call me shifty eyes. Shifting my eyes everywhere. And now I get a special power, and I told my wife knows. She's like, wow, you're really good at making eye contact. I'm like, yeah, I'll tell you my secret. I'm looking right in the middle of your forehead. Don't ever look in people's eyes. Just what they think you are. And that's what matters, right? Perception. Yeah. Body language. Are there joints and elbows pointing towards you, or is half of them pointing elsewhere, like at the door? Yeah, they probably want to run away. Probably want to leave. You guys get any body language tips and tricks?
I'm just gonna plug Chase Hughes' 6-minute X-ray right now. It's a work I'm currently trying to unpack the incredible amounts of detail that he really dives deep in on. Blink rate is one of the big ones he talks about. Somebody's blinking a lot, indicates stress, for example. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. He really deep dives on what, like open palms, for example, is a way to project openness and open body language. So if you have your palms like that, then you're open to the suggestions. And then, of course, you've talked to someone like that, right? It's like skeptical or defensive. Even literally, if you see they're pointing down like that, they're protecting their jugular, literally. So that's really incredible what the information someone can just, and you can't really, it's really hard physiology wise to lie. Yeah. So the body will tell the truth even if the words might not be congruent. So if you can learn it, I think there might be some next level stuff available to us from that standpoint.
I love it. Just YouTube body language. There's body language experts like Joe Navarro. Yep. And man, I love how they break down body language. Obviously, the biggest thing in body language is the micro flinches. Someone's nose flinch or something. I've caught it in mocks, and it's always the turnaround point after that micro flinch. Let's see, fly great distances to meet people in person. This is why Douglas and I are working on getting a private jet. Let's see, pay close attention to tone and body language. See if they don't match up with literal meaning of words. And I'll tell you, the master of it is R. Kelly. Your mind's telling me no, but your body's telling me yes. Think about that. R. Kelly notices that the woman is telling him, no, R. Kelly, I don't want you. But R. Kelly knows that their mind is telling them, yes, R. Kelly, I want you. My body's saying no.
Incongruency. That's what you're noticing.
Yeah.
So there is discomfort, and that comes down to lies. Everyone's trying to understand and dive deeper. Are they lying to me? Are they not lying to me? There's a gut feeling that you get. There is some sort of incongruency between what they say and how they are. And so it's your job to probe deeper into that. Labels are fantastic to do that. And you got to observe it. You got to bring it to the conscious level and see their reaction.
I'll tell you
and by doing that,
the most noticeable one, you said observe their reaction. What they're saying is Joe Navarro broke down Bill Clinton when he's saying, I did not have sexual relations with that lady. He was nodding his head opposite to what he was saying. So I've caught people where they're like, no, Dan, I'm telling you the truth. And it's like, they're nodding no. Yeah, those incongruencies. The body's not good at handling them. So you got to be able to identify it.
It's like going against your nature. You're trying to fake the reality. And the more you try to fake it, the harder it is to sustain it. Because now you have to retain some pieces of information to stay congruent. And that takes massive amount of efforts. It's much easier to convey the truth from different perspective, perhaps, rather than outright lying.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you'll get caught in your web of lies. Like literally, you get caught in the web, on the web of lies. That's why it's more fun to go with the truth, and it's also more funny because they say the truth is harder than, sometimes the truth is like more far-fetched than a lie. Yeah, like why lie when the truth is bad enough as it is?
And again, if you think that the truth will have some sort of a negative impact, use accusation audit, prepare them. create that cushion for them to fall back on when you deliver the truth.
And then let's go second, the last bullet point on that. Oh yeah, you just said use labels to discover source of incongruence.
Yeah.
I heard you say yes, but it seemed like there was hesitation in your voice. No, this is important. Let's make sure we get this right. Yeah, they say like especially if you got somebody that's I don't want to say I want to call them a sheep. There was in some sales things where like you'll have clients that are like sheeps. You can get them to agree to whatever and they'll do it. They'll follow. But man, if they find out you led them to the wrong path or at the wrong place, they are going to retaliate. And so yeah, that's why it's important. Like, hey, are you just saying that because you feel pressure?
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that, Freddie?
No, not like the
But just in
when it
general,
comes to
7% content, 38% tone, 55% body language, and everything in there. Are you working on anything?
I feel tone of voice is well, it depends what you do, of course, but I think tone of voice is in practice at least more important for me.
Yeah, same here. And that's why I thought tone was more higher percentage than body and face. No, I mean, yeah, I don't mind flying in my private jet to meet people in person. Not only that, but you know, the butterflies are more real probably when you're in proximity to someone. You can really get a gut feel. And let's go on to the last portion here. This is something Freddie and I were talking about. I was telling him that Black Swan's looking to get rid of this. They're finding out it's an agitating the counterpart, and it's true. In the mock, somebody did the rule of 3 on me, and I'm like, after the second one, I'm like, hey man, like, I literally said yes like 2 times. What the fuck what's going on, man? And the guy's like, oh, I'm just doing the rule of 3, and I'm like, what? That's what it feels like. That's what the rule. I'm like, that don't feel right. So yeah, they're saying 2 times is plentiful. No need for a third. So rule of 3, get them to say yes 3 times. 1, get them to give me a commitment. Number 2, label plus summarize, get it that's right. And then number 3, calibrated how or what questions about implementation. That's what will constitute success. What do we do if we get off track? So the 3 ways of saying yes. Yeah, 2 of those is good enough, honestly.
And I was going to ask, what do you think the difference? I know I've had similar experience with as an assertive. It does tend to piss me off if somebody stays too long in this. I'd be curious what your thoughts are with accommodators to kind of pin them down a little bit. If maybe it might still be good.
Yeah, that's what they said. Like this, if anything, really applies to accommodators. Yeah, assertives. I mean, with number 1, get them to give me a commitment. You get a commitment from an assertive, bro. It's done. It's going to get done. It might take a bit. It might be under turn, but it's going to get done. Nothing wrong with a summary to get it that. You should always get it that's right out of your counterpart. So I feel number 2, it's already baked into your negotiation. And I feel number 1 is baked in, especially if it's an assertive or even analytical. Those 2. And yeah, when you get the accommodator, I think that's the only time where you should ask hey, how is it gonna look like? What's the process gonna be like? What happens if you get off track? Yeah, that one, yeah, save that stuff for an accommodator like Eugene.
I think for the yes 3 times, it's like you have to explore the success. What's going to happen if we, how do we know we're successful in this? But then you have to explore the failure too. Have you considered what's going to happen if we, fail at this? Like if we keep doing the same thing all over again. Let them answer this. Oh yeah, we can always get back to the way things are. Well, are you willing to settle for this? So that way you're getting an understanding what is the decision-making process, how committed they are. So you have to probe and clarify deeper. And yes 3 times, you can get yes 3 times, but also like you have to realize what's behind those yeses. Like, can you future pace them? Like, what would the ideal solution look like? What kind of, how would the company life job would be different if we were to implement this solution? What would that do for you personally? So you got to kind of probe and clarify a bit deeper, and not necessarily hear yes 3 times, but understand what's behind those yeses, and understand not only the success but the failure component to the commitment.
Oh, all right, guys. It's 11 p.m. Man, tired. Hopefully, see some of you guys in the morning. Oh, there's that sound.
Question. I just read in one of the documents that Daniel shared about the label acts. So what would be your take on calibrate question and label ask? When do you choose one over the other?
Oh yeah, man. Assertives. They're a special type. With the assertive, you want to do asking labels. Maybe not maybe, do one like really, really strong calibrated question, and the rest asking labels. Yeah, they found out that assertives, when you ask them, how am I supposed to do this or do that, they'll just flat out tell you, well, figure it out. Go figure it out. What are you asking me for? Go figure it out. That's what I pay you for. And so an asking label be much more effective because it requires you to do some thinking. Assertive just really wants to execute. Doesn't really want to think much. A lot of them will tell you, man, just give me 3 options. And so yeah, give them 3 options, 2 very unfavorable and 1 very favorable for you. Should be obvious for them. Does that help, Freddie?
Yes, thank you.
Do you know what negotiator you are?
Moderator, most likely.
Accommodator?
Yes.
Oh yeah, then you got advantage over other negotiators.
But not with
Because,
my kids. With my kids, I'm more assertive.
well, you would have, you should really practice with them being what you are, an accommodator. And I mean, as Douglas and I are always trying to be more accommodating. It's not easy for us, but that's the ultimate negotiator. He accommodates you by listening to you, by helping you, accommodates by listening for you solving your own problems. And then, yeah, essentially they got to jump into more of an assertive. Like, that can be the problem for an accommodator, is maybe they're too accommodating. You got to have a little mix in there. But I mean, I guess that's good. You're practicing assertiveness. It's good. But yeah, no, you definitely have an advantage over many people. Is that why you mute your mic every time? Accommodating?
You asked me?
Yeah, I asked you a terrible why question.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that
I
question.
said, do you keep muting your mic because you're an accommodator?
No, because I have noise here
Oh, we don't hear anything.
around.
Oh,
Oh,
just
okay,
teasing.
good.
Just trying to trigger you, man. That's all I want. That's all I want to do. Even at 11 p.m. Well, midnight for you.
Yeah.
This was good.
All right, gentlemen, gotta jump off
Yeah.
here. So next time we're gonna go to page 4. There's a
Page
lot
4
to
is
unpack
thick.
there.
Page 4 is
Yeah.
thick. Wow. Okay. Yeah, types of accommodators. When you get into that.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen.
Thank
All right,
you
gentlemen.
guys.
Thank
Sounds
you for
good.
coming.
See you guys.
See you on the next one.